believe that we can agree that we share certain human rights without having to have that conversation right this minute. I think that we can agree that the Constitution is the law of the land. The purpose of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is to have a limited form of government, not a government that is all-powerful and has control over every aspect of our lives. We have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, unencumbered by a heavy-handed government, so to speak. I think the purpose of this, I heard the word propaganda thrown out. Raise your hand if you felt like that was propaganda. Boom. Okay? You guys can't see it, but there are hands up in the room. You need to understand that. Concerned citizens in our community feel like that's propaganda. Okay. They're here because they're concerned. Thank you for being here. They stepped into an uncomfortable, potentially hostile situation. Thank you for having the courage. Okay? This is what it takes to have a conversation as a community. We need to understand that, maintain that level of respect moving forward.
Sir? I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Do you have a name or something?
My name is Luke Throop.
Huh? I'm sorry?
Luke
Okay.
Throop. Yeah.
Are you just a citizen?
I'm just a citizen here at Goldendale, Washington. I'm on the radio. I'm Luke Throop in the Orange News Center. I got a podcast, I got a book, I
Nice to meet you,
speak.
Luke. I just thought I didn't know who you are.
Perfect, all right. Sorry about that, I apologize. Yeah. So, that said, we've got a contentious issue on the table, and that issue is what are we going to do with the county jail? What are we going to do with the county jail? I think the purpose of this video was meant to not propagate or to indoctrinate people, but to share a constitutional perspective on the role of the sheriff. What is the role of the sheriff? The sheriff is elected by the local citizens, we the people, and it's to stand in that barrier between those who would, harm us or harm our families or our properties, so to protect people against criminals, working with the police and state police and all that, that's part of the job, and then also to stand as that umbrella if there is overreach from the government, to intrude or infringe upon our basic human rights that are protected and enshrined in the Bill of Rights. Notice how I didn't say God-given rights, it's basic human rights enshrined and protected by the Bill of Rights. We can take that debate off the table and agree that those rights do in fact exist. They do exist. And that man right there was elected by the people to protect those rights, and he stands with the people, the majority of people in this room, to protect those rights. Not to run rogue and do his own thing and have his own interpretation of the law, but to stand and uphold the constitutional rights that we all agree is, this is the law of the land. We can disagree about so many things. I love a good debate, but let's get past the debate for today and then say we agree the Constitution is the law of the land. Raise your hand if you think the Constitution is the law of the land. Okay, so we're talking constitutional principles, limited Bill of Rights, and the sheriff's role in that is to protect that. That's great. What we're here to talk about today is the closing of Klickitat County Jail. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to shut up now. We're going to start fielding some questions. Thank you guys for being here. Sir?
Yeah, Roger Nichols. I'm requiring for Lewis that this is not a hostile question, it's a chance to explain in more detail. The word sheriff does not appear in the U.S. Constitution and does not have the powers or the duties. Also, the Constitution to which we all swore oaths says the Supreme Court is the supreme judge of what is constitutional. I think that is an area where we can respond and get some answers to that.
Great question. So the question is, where is it, the Constitution doesn't say sheriff. Where is it delineated as sheriff? We're going to have Bob come up and speak to that in just a second. I would add, well, I'm not going to add anything. Sheriff, you want to come up? Come on up and respond. Where does your authority come from? Would that answer the question?
Yes,
Okay.
Magna Carta.
That's a British law, that's not an American law.
Well, it is in this country.
Magna Carta.
Hand in the bag? No?
Okay. I'd also like to state that RCW 7048-190 allows the county legislative authority to locate and operate jails in the county. And RCW 7048-090 Section 4 allows a county to establish a Department of Corrections to run the jail. Only if no department is created does the responsibility fall to the chief law enforcement officer. As long as we're following laws, that's what the law says.
I'm aware of that. Thank you.
just to make everyone else.
Yes, sir.
A little bit of an opening statement. You repeatedly suggested that the commissioners cut your medical budget, just, this is an example, as if the medical costs were the only reason you have budget issues. First, the county does not budget on a line item basis. The commissioners only control the total appropriation. You are free to spend that appropriation in any combination within your wages and benefits category and the operating budget category. Second, your department submits the proposed budget to the commissioners for approval. To that submittal comes from your office. Third, whether the commissioners close the jail or not, you have bigger budget issues. My issue is not about the jail, but your lack of truth and transparency. In fact, it appears that removing the jail might actually exacerbate your budget problems. So I've got a couple of questions that I think need to be answered. You claim you care about the 16 people losing their jobs.
That's
You
right.
have repeatedly expressed that come hell or high water, you won't be letting Loren Culp go. You have an open admin position, but haven't moved your jail admin person into the position to save her job. You have 1 or 2 road deputy positions open, but aren't sending the corrections officers to academy to fill those positions. So do you really care about people or just the jobs of one person? 2, the county provides 4 supplemental budget opportunities throughout the year, roughly 1 per quarter. It appears you didn't utilize the first 3 supplements last year, but instead required a $300K supplement in December after you'd already spent the money. How did your budget get so out of control that the issue wasn't recognized until the last minute? Question 3. Even with a $300K supplement in 2023, you still went over budget roughly $4,900. But it's worse than that. RCW 364130 states in part, liabilities incurred or warrants issued in excess of any detailed appropriations shall not be a liability to county, but the official making such expenditures shall be liable therefore personally. Are you prepared to refund the taxpayers for your overshot?
What was the overshot? 4,900? Is that what you said?
You overshot your budget about $450,000 last year.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, you did. Anyway, not including the $80K worth of KVH medical bills, you just got a supplement to cover. A review of county AP suggests you spent over $60K out of your 2024 budget to cover 22 and 23 expenditures. How do you plan to adapt your current spending to cover that shortfall? 6, in various public committees, your
Can we do one question at a time so that we can follow it?
Here's why that doesn't work.
The other guy had his 5 minutes.
Yeah, this, you can wrap up later. You can wrap up later. We'll be happy to answer those questions to the best of our ability. But let's be
Can I
honest.
finish, please?
Let's be honest about it. You have a vendetta against the sheriff. You've told me that personally. And you're friends with Jake Anderson, who also has a vendetta. So you get up there and spout all your stuff. Yes,
Let
sir.
me finish, sir.
No.
Should I let you start first? Ask you a question, you tell them to sit down, really? Answer the questions. Answer. I'm correct.
Hold on. Hold on. Listen, hold on. Sit down. Sit down.
Right to speak, whether
How many more? You got 6 pages or whatever?
One more question.
All right, go with it.
In various public comments, your posse is admitted to transporting inmates and doing suicide watch in the jail. Is that even legal under the county's union contracts that you have with the jailers? Not to mention the lack of training that those posse members would have.
And do they follow up on reviewing the inmates that are brought in to be watched? Do they actually supervise them?
Who are you talking about supervising? Posse member supervising?
If they bring an inmate in that needed supervised, is anyone actually supervising that inmate that is having issues?
Yes, there is.
If there is, how many deaths have you had in your jail?
One,
No, I've read more articles than that.
going back 10 years,
Going
15
back at
years.
least just slightly over 10 years.
I wasn't sure.
You should know what's going on. If this place, does this city run on status quo? It is like it is, and we're just gonna
You
flow
know,
with it?
and I gotta admit, if the fault lies at my desk, I write to eat for it. I got no problem with that. But we're gonna get into some of the transparency that these people wanna talk about.
So we need transparency.
Yes, we have outstanding employees in that jail. They don't wanna see anybody. They don't wanna see anything. And now wait a minute, I have a prosecutor that blocked us from getting a furlough for Miss George to be committed to a mental institution. Now let's bring that out. Let's have the prosecutor stand up here and explain why he blocked the furlough.
You do have outstanding employees. However, as the gentleman stated, you are not putting those employees forward into positions in which they could advance not only their career.
How would you know that? You have no clue.
I am listening to what he just told me. You know, there's a lot of supporters here, and I imagine.
I'll tell you what, I made this offer to Gabby Gilbert. She's not a friend of mine, she hates my guts, as along as some others in this room. Constantly in the press, beating up on me, hates me, and you know what, as a constitutional sheriff, you have a right to do that. And I would protect your right to do that. But when you spread lies and half-truths, no, that's not right.
Liar. Yeah, these people at the front here, they prearranged and scripted their attack to haze off the narrative to their own viewpoint. And they do that all the time. And Bob, if this guy got 7 minutes, could I read a statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll hold it if you'd like.
Hard times bring hard words. And if you look around the room and see who is and isn't here, note that free expression of opinion is so rare locally, and this forum is an anomaly, despite the effort to hijack it by liberals. Is the Sentinel newspaper here? Please ask Marsalis to begin to accept letters from me, my good pastor, and not censor other conservative letter writers. Please. I suggest a Bud Light remedy for the Golden Sentinel.
Yes.
What is said here today is going to be sanitized in Wednesday's edition.
Amen.
I'm going to object to that. I'm going to be the one to write.
Who's speaking?
Thank you,
right now?
Roger.
Who's speaking?
My name's Roger Nichols. I'm
Who's-
working
who's-
for, I'm a hired gun.
Have you been recognized?
I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So,
Let him finish.
free speech validates a good leader, exposes others. This is one reason why Saunders in the crosshairs of both Democrats and the Uniparty. In addition to pursuit of money and power, what other negative conditions, this is what we should be talking about, have prevailed over time to explain the evident corruption practiced in local politics? If the jail closing was authentic in terms of its stated concerns, why was it initially formulated in secret? Were county workers enlisted in the effort by supervisors? Did commissioners campaign on cooperating with local anti-law enforcement elements, such as here today, whose own words and public positions offer proof that they have acted to defund the sheriff's office and damage the sheriff personally? Right now, the closing of the jail is an emotional response from 2 county commissioners plus their handlers. The rhetoric around social justice and safety concerns is largely a straw man to that end. If Saga were a liberal Democrat, we wouldn't be here today.
Amen.
Refuse to allow the current process to continue that simply places cookie-cutter politicians, including Republicans, in office to replace others of the same caliber. When elected, they immediately stagger off to the big government left side. Exit party officials who select candidates to run for office and replace others outside the establishment with others outside the establishment who are better able to ask the tough questions in the vetting process to deliver authentic conservatives. Reject liberals whose policies see criminals as victims. Adopt a real permanent mechanism to recall rogue local politicians who lose their way in pursuit of their own personal power and exhibit any tendency toward the practice of political opportunism, favoritism, and even nepotism. Radical Democrats, liberal media, and the like need no help from Republicans to destroy the state and county. They do quite well on their own.
Thank you.
Roger?
First, let me apologize for interrupting when you were speaking. I'm Roger Nichols. I recently took on the job of covering the Klickitat County Commissioners for the Sentinel and for the Columbia Gorge News. I have been covering the Goldendale City Council for about 15 years, so I have some experience. I'm still learning. I'm still getting the background on it. My intent has always been to deliver an absolute straight down the middle and a moderate militant. I despise extremes on both sides. I try to write that way. But again, if you have any concerns or qualities about what I write or how I put things, let me know or pass it on to Lou. Will give it to me. By the way, I live in the Dallas, I live in Wasco County, so I'm kind of a newcomer in that aspect. I'm still learning, and I appreciate all the slack you can give me while I get things right. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
You should have the Danielle talk. Yeah.
Yes, we
That was, yeah.
Good day, everyone. So what I'd like to know, and I think a lot of people in our town would like to know, is what's the protocol from start to finish, starting when you get an inmate who you suspect has mental illness, and ultimately whose responsibility or whose decision is it to have them go or not go and get treated at a mental facility?
Comprehensive hearing or a crisis situation is two avenues, as I understand. And what we've been told in our jail, that if we have somebody that is really having mental issues, and it's a crisis situation, we go through the prosecuting attorney to get a furlough.
And has that happened?
Well, let me explain that. To get a furlough, which would go to the judge to get a court order and then find a bed for the individual at Eastern State or Western States or the hospital. In this case, of the young man that, strike that, of Pauletta George, she came in, she was in bad shape mentally, not necessarily physically at that point, but mentally. She refused to eat, refused to shower, messed all over herself, or to take any medications. Now, we cannot force them to do that. That would be a violation of their civil rights. So we went, Loren Culp, our chief jailer, Carmen Knox, who is our undersheriff, and Lori Proctor, who is the defense attorney for that young lady George, went to the prosecuting attorney to get a furlough. I do not give out furloughs. That's a fact.
That's what he said?
That's what the prosecutor said.
Yes.
Thank you.
So consequently, we weren't able to get her up to a mental hospital. She was deteriorating badly. We made the decision to get her up to the emergency room.
What was the time
Our
frame?
employees made that decision.
What was the time frame? 24 hours, 36 hours?
What? Time frame what? To get her up
From the
there?
time you discovered she was in crisis to the time you got her to an emergency room.
She gradually got worse. It was over a month.
24, 36, 72.
It was about a month before she got in real bad
So
condition.
nobody noticed she was in really bad shape until that point.
I can't hear you, first of all.
No one noticed she was in bad shape until that point, although she had.
Well, of course they noticed, and they tried to get her help.
Where's David Quinnell?
The ER prior to that?
Quinnell.
She was taken to the ER when it came
After a
obvious.
month. That's incomprehensible that you wait that long.
Yeah, I'm sure you know all about that.
No, ma'am, sir?
You wanna take a tour of the jail, I'll arrange it.
Oh, I don't,
So what are the consequences then of the prosecuting attorney if they refuse to have a mentally ill patient furloughed? Are there any consequences?
I don't believe so.
So-
I can answer that. I can answer that.
Oh,
David Quinnell is now under recall investigation.
Amen.
Because the taxpayers and voters of this county, from District 1 to the Benton County, Klickitat County line, have had enough. We've had enough, and we're not taking any more for the county.
Yeah, he's a real.
So will the sheriff's office then be unable to,
what we will do in the future,
uh-huh,
we'll bypass, we'll ask him, because I want him to stand up and be counted. If he says, no, I don't give out a furlough, we'll bypass him and go right to the judge.
was that the only furlough that he has said no to?
No, he said no to several. And Loren Culp, where's Loren at?
Right here.
I'd have you speak to a recent furlough that you're trying to get.
The supervisor of the jail operations. We've got about currently 13 corrections deputies that work in there, a records clerk, and a couple control board operators. We've got a couple positions. If you know anybody who needs a job, have them apply. So, what was the question that sorry, I was busy recording. What was the question I was going to answer?
Could you please expand on which another furlough or other furloughs that have, recent furloughs that have been denied by the, not by the sheriff's office, but by the prosecuting attorney is what you said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to talk about any specific case, but I can tell you what has happened. When someone comes in and they're having mental issues and they won't take care of themselves, a designated crisis responder is called. They're from mental health. That's their job. They come in and they talk to the person, they try to help them, and they evaluate them. And then they recommend that they go to a mental hospital or that they don't, or that we check on them every 5 minutes or every 15 minutes. Normally we check on the inmates every hour. But they can tell us this person really needs to be watched a little closer because of their interview with that person. Yes, sir.
Where are they from? Are those state people or county people that are doing this evaluation?
There's some from the state and some from the county. Yeah, most of them.
Do they come quickly, or do you have to wait a week or two? Or
it just depends on when it is. They're on call 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, we just call the crisis line and they send them. So there have been multiple instances. I've been in charge of the jail for a year. I've been in law enforcement for about 12. Been in charge of the jail for a year. There have been many instances since I've been here, and I was shocked when I first got here because I would go to the prosecutor and say that, mental health is saying that this person needs to go to a mental hospital for a higher level of care. We don't even have a nurse in the jail. So I'd go talk to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor's like, no, I do not give furloughs. If we give them a furlough, they go to that mental facility, they let them go and they commit a crime, then it's on me. I'm not giving furloughs. And I said, well, these are secure facilities. If the court order says that they will be returned to Klickitat County Jail once they're done with their treatment, then that's what we do. He absolutely refuses to give furloughs for people to go to get higher level treatment. That has happened multiple times. The most recent one, I had a DCR, a designated crisis responder, come to the jail because we called them and said this person needs to be looked at. And they came, And they interviewed the person, they wrote out the report. I talked to them after they were done with the evaluation, and he said, I'm pretty sure I can get a bed for this person in the facility, but I need a furlough. I said, our prosecutor will not give furloughs. That's his standing order. And he said, well, we need to. And I looked at him and I said, will you walk over to the prosecutor's office, which is just a couple doors down from the sheriff's office? Will you walk over there with me to talk to him? Because maybe it'll have more weight than just me going there. You're a mental health professional. And by the way, he's been doing this for, I think, about 30 years. At first, he just stood there and looked at me and thought about it. And then he said, yes, I will. This person needs to go. And so we walked into Mr. Quinnell's office, and I introduced him, and he sat down and he began to explain what was going on. And Mr. Quinnell interrupted him a couple times, very forcefully. At one point said, don't threaten me. When the DCR said that, sir, if we do not let this person out, there's going to be a lot of liability. And that's when Mr. Quinnell said, don't you threaten me. And he said, sir, I am not, he was very professional. He said, I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you the level of need for this person. And Mr. Quinnell, after a couple back and forth, said, I think we're done here, you guys can leave. And we did not get the furlough for that person. I have personally, in my law enforcement career, I got hundreds, probably 250 to 300 search warrants in my career. I was a narcotics detective, along with patrol and a chief of police. I've gotten a lot of search warrants, and a lot of those I've called in the middle of the night, woke the judge up, and said, Your Honor, I have an affidavit, I need a search warrant, and I need it now. Well, I had one instance where this person needed to go, and I called the judge directly, told him who I was and what my job was, and here's the facts, Your Honor, and we need a furlough. And he verbally gave me, just like they verbally approve a search warrant over the phone, he verbally gave me permission to take that person and turn them over to mental health and get them the higher level of care that they needed. And then the paperwork was taken care of the next day. And Mr. Quinnell met me in the hallway as I was going to court the next day. And he was not a happy person, but I don't care. The first job of the jail is to take care of the health and the welfare of the inmates. And anytime that something goes wrong, and things go wrong in life, things go wrong in a jail, look at the jails all across this state. Some of them have multiple hangings. Even with on-staff medical, they still have issues. But anytime anything goes wrong, it is not good. But you have a few people in this county and in elected office that are using this to be an issue against Sheriff Zoller. Amen. That is all this is. It is a 100% political. Not any of those people that are trying to shut down this jail have I seen come through our jail to look and see. Not before they announced, before they lobbed that hand grenade into everybody's life and said, we're closing the jail, you're out of a job. Before they did that, I didn't see them come into the jail. I didn't see them coming over to talk about the situations in the jail, what they can do to improve it. None of that. And the people that stand up in the community and get on Facebook or come to town halls like this and spout off about what's going on in the jail have no clue. I welcome anyone to come to the jail and ask for a tour. Don't just show up because sometimes we're busy. Call ahead. I have no problem giving people tours of the jail. That facility is run top-notch with what we got to work with. The building is old, but it is sound. It's concrete and steel. The building is sound. There's the buildings and ground is in there repairing things all the time. Electrical problems, plumbing problems, leaks, things like that. They're very good at it. They've been doing it a long time. We've asked for a nurse, even a part-time nurse. Crickets. We don't have any money for that kind of thing. I have done multiple presentations to the county commissioners on biometric monitors. It's like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit that goes on the wrist of an inmate that sends a signal wirelessly to the control board when that person's oxygen levels drop below a certain level, when their pulse lowers or quickens. There's an alert on the screen, and deputies could go immediately to that cell and take care of that inmate. I have a grant from the Washington State Insurance Risk Pool for 7 of those. It's $24,000 and some for 7 of those wrist monitors. I presented that to the county commissioners, and I got nothing but roadblocks. They paid 100% of that for the first year, but they just threw up roadblocks. So it's obvious to me, and I've only been here a year, but it's very obvious to me that at every avenue, what we try to do to improve the jail is blocked. Now there are some things, and I don't mean to ramble on here, Sheriff, but there are some things that we have done good in the jail. If you remember last summer, and I'll get back to the good things we've done. Remember last summer when we had an inmate hang himself in the jail? We had an unexpected death committee that investigated that after Skamania County deputy investigated that. The committee looks at all the facts, looks at the reports. What's that, sir?
Who was on the committee?
Our health director was on the committee. I was on the committee. The jail physician was on the committee. And the chief civil deputy was on the committee. So we reviewed everything, and we need to look at things that we can do to improve to make sure that that doesn't happen again. One of the biggest things to me was vent covers, because the person used the louvers in the jail vents to tie a sheet. That was the biggest recommendation as far as I was concerned, is replacing those vent covers with non-ligature vent covers. That was almost a year ago. Do you think that one was replaced? No, none. I sent an email a couple weeks ago. I said it's almost been a year. Where are the new vent covers? And I haven't got a reply. So these are the kind of things that are going on.
Who is the person that you're not getting a reply from?
I'm not going to go into the details of that. But they were.
Talking about the sheriff department's budget, replacing the jail covers. So it should, why is it more than?
It would not be on the sheriff's budget. So he'll have to. So I was going to touch on a few things that we have improved in the jail. You know, before I became a police officer, I worked 20-some years in construction, and I remember hearing about inmates in our local jail that had cable TV at the time. And that kind of upset me. It's like, why do we have cable TV for prisoners? They're in jail. They shouldn't be having that. I couldn't even afford cable TV at the time. And after becoming a police officer, I realized that when they're in jail, yes, they are prisoners. They are accused or have been convicted of a crime, but they're human beings. And if you can help them get through their 6 months or their 9 months or their 2 weeks stay in the jail and not be a problem for the corrections officers, you know, keep them slightly entertained, they can watch TV, there's less fights, there's less arguments, and there's less attacks on officers. So some things that I have improved since I've been in charge of the jail is we've got new TV enclosures that are non-ligature TV enclosures, and we've got some larger TV screens. Right now they've got like a 16 or 17-inch screen to watch in a whole cell block. Can't hardly see it. But we've got that through the inmate fund, which the inmates pay for when they order commissary and use the telephone. There's a fund where part of that money goes to. And it can be used for inmate things like that. So trying to get the vent covers fixed, trying to get the wrist monitors, those are things that we've been trying to work on, trying to get people to mental health facilities. Those are things we try to work on. And to the county commissioners, don't seem to like to do those things.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Yeah, this lady. Well, you got a mic there.
Yes, she does.
My name is Joella Ruiz, and I lived here for a long time. All the cops know who I am. And 16 years ago, my daughter, Heather Edge, was under the influence of drug and alcohol. Leo Lucotero found her starting all over, and he arrested her, took her to the jail up here. The deputies took real good care of her, since they didn't have a jail cell for juveniles, so one of the deputies took her to NORCOR, put her on suicide watch. She was in there for 6 days, and, excuse me. And so the deputy took good care of her, and that stopped her because she didn't want to go to jail no more. But the reason is, if they close this jail, there's going to be all the sex offenders, drug dealers, the murderers, the rapists, especially the inmate that hurt Deputy Mayor. He will be released, and all the prisoners will be out on our streets. I moved from here to White Salmon because of what's going on. Some of those prisoners are from White Salmon or Benjamin. And if they release them, they'll come back to my town. And I'm afraid they're gonna break into my place where I live. But it's not the fault of these deputies in the city and the jailers. What's gonna happen to the jailers if this place is shut down and everything? They'll lose their jobs. So I believe in my heart, it was the inmate's fault that he committed suicide. What are they gonna do? Who's gonna pay for the jailer to sit in that cell for 24/7? Are you gonna pay them to be in the cell with those inmates? So I believe it's the inmate's fault that they committed suicide. Not the jailers, not the city cops, not the sheriff. These sheriffs do their jobs. They're risking their life. Look at that deputy that ended up getting hurt because of some stupid kid who was psychotic that did that and everything. They risked their lives. It's not their fault. It's not the jailer's fault that inmate killed himself. It's his fault.
That's enough now.
I believe. If my daughter was in there and she went crazy like that, I wouldn't blame the sheriff or the jailer. It would be her fault. So when this guy committed suicide, he was suicidal, it was his fault that happened, not the jailers and the sheriff's deputies. I'm sorry, but I believe that.
I just want to cover one thing real quick. Thanks, Sheriff. The people that work in the jail, they are the most professional people that I have ever worked for in my career. They care about those inmates. They do their best to take care of them. We don't have even a nurse part-time in the jail. We have a contract medical provider that they have contact on the phone. They can send pictures of, bruised elbow or whatever to the doctor, and he comes into the jail 2 to 3 times a month. He's available by email and phone, and that's how things are run that way. But the corrections deputies, they're 100% professionals. For those people that are, maybe there's some, I have heard that are coming after the jail and after Bob and using these incidences that we've had over the last year as an excuse because Loren Culp is in there and he's treating people badly. Let me assure you, I manage the jail. I don't handle inmates. That's the job of the corrections deputies. And we have 4 crews that work in a rotation, 12 hours at a time. And every crew has a corporal that's in charge of them. and every corporal has a sergeant who is over them. And he's been a corrections deputy for 20 years, right here in Klickitat County, working in this jail. And then over him you have me, and then my supervisor is Under Sheriff Carmen Knox. She's been a corrections deputy for decades. So if you think the people that are going after the jail because they think I'm abusing people, if you think that a 20-year veteran corrections sergeant that's under me is going to take any orders from me to abuse anyone, or you think that Carmen Knox, our undersheriff, who is my supervisor, are going to allow me to do that, you're crazy, and maybe you should see a DCR.
I'm Teresa, and I retired as a corrections deputy after 34 years in corrections. I did 14 plus years at Klickitat County when I started, and then I moved on to Thurston County, which had over 100 corrections deputies. It was a very large jail. I retired 6 years ago. After I retired, I moved back to Klickitat County, where I was from, and I joined the posse. And after I joined the posse, I go into the jail weekly and do programs for the inmates. So I get to talk to the inmates a lot. And so I want to say that our officers are very professional. I've worked with a lot of officers. And Klickitat County, honestly, the inmates will tell you they get treated the best of any inmates in the whole state, or in any of the jails in Oregon or Idaho, or where a lot of them have been, okay? So, but I want to tell you a story about one of the officers I just found out about. There was a man in the jail who his wife got sick and died. When she found out the wife had died, she was from Canada, so he had no way of getting a furlough or going to see her before she died. So there was an officer that went above the call. She contacted the telephone company, which is kind of expensive for the inmates to make calls, okay? They don't have a lot of money. She called that telephone company and asked them to waive the fees so this man could get on the screen, see his wife, talk to her and say his goodbyes. Now, when I said to this officer, thank you for doing that, she said, it's my job. There was nothing. And I said, oh yeah, I know what our jobs are. And you went above the call. And that's what those officers do in that jail. I hear it time and time again, giving inmates a special telephone call because they're having mental problems or they just need a little bit of something. But these officers, they care. I've seen them in action, and they get treated better than most jails, okay? So what my concern is this. Our deputy, Tim Neer, just got hit with a hammer on the head from a mental person, okay? So now if they're gonna close down our jail and they're gonna contract with NORCOR will not take mental people. Okay, this guy was mental. They won't take medical people. Do you realize probably 95% of inmates that come in are either high on drugs, coming down off of drugs, or they got medical problems or mental health problems, okay? So if NORCOR isn't gonna take these inmates, what are we going to do? Are they gonna have to get released back on the street? Which, that's not fair to them either. They need help. The people that have medical problems, the addicts, they need help, right? That's why I go in there. I go in there to do programs to help them to get off the drugs, help them to make a difference in their lives so they can have a better life, make better choices, that kind of thing. So I think our citizens of our county deserve better. We deserve the safety. Also, our inmates deserve better. Are they even gonna get the programs? These are all free. The county doesn't pay for any of these programs. There's a lot of volunteers that come in. And even the inmates say, how are we gonna get help? Yeah, and then there's also, right, the ministries, yes.
So, I've been a registered nurse for 30 years, okay? I've worked in your hospital, I've worked at White Salmon Hospital, And I can tend to tell you that there is a change in our community. We all know that. We know that drugs are out of control. We know that mental health is out of control. We see these people come into our hospitals and they come into an emergency room because maybe a sheriff, they can't take them on. They don't have a nurse, they don't have a staff. But even a nurse, being a nurse, I can't change somebody's mental illness overnight. I cannot dry them up and rehabilitate them from drugs overnight. I have been bit, I have been hit, I have been cursed, I have been thrown to the floor. I have permanent injuries. I want to know why this county is all of a sudden ultimately responsible for changing something that has taken generations and years to occur. As far as money goes, we're talking about the budget, and oh gee, they're over the budget. Well, I want to know why everybody in this room, isn't your budget stretched to the limit right now too? Right? Yeah. Okay, so these guys have a job that they have to promote, they have to take care of these people, and they have to bring them in. They're just thrown in there because nobody else wants to stand up and care. What about the families? You know, where are they? I've been in the hospital and called a family member to come and pick somebody up because they're so drunk that they can't even stand up, right? I'm not gonna send them to jail because they're drunk. So I call a family member and they say, well, we can't take care of them. What are we gonna do, people? We need to be the answer. We don't need to be the problem. Yeah.
I've got a couple of hands back there, but before we get into that, I want to recognize you. I want to say that there is one county commissioner, after the March 29th bomb was dropped on us, without any indication, cities didn't have any idea of it happening. And all of a sudden, we're told on that March 29th, Roy Zoller taking the lead on this, Jake Anderson backing her up. By the way, they didn't even include the third seat mate on that deal. Done in secrecy, in my opinion. They hammered us in that open meeting. And in her comments was this, basically, I'll paraphrase it, you can always pull the meeting and see what she said. But basically, the sheriff is incompetent and the jail staff. And that's why we gotta move forward, and we're contracting, and by April 12th, we will be moving the prisoners over to NORCOR. And they already started union negotiations with those 16 employees for severance packages by the end of April, when the jail would be permanently locked down.
So we can't stop.
And that, let me finish. That was 1,000 hours she indicated her and her staff put into this. Well, I smelled a rat. I've been in this business a few years. I got a hold of two sheriffs that sat on the NORCOR Board, or one of the boards there at NORCOR. And they came over and met with me on April 10th. 2 days before we're supposed to send the inmates over to NORCOR. 2 days. They met with him in my office. Mr. West, Dave West, posse member, Karen Ames, my chief civil deputy, was present during that meeting. I said, well, it looks like we're going to be moving our prisoners over to you gentlemen. Words to that effect. In 2 days. They looked at each other and kind of smiled. Said, Bob, they do not have a contract with us. And I said, what? They do not have a contract with us. Yes, Commissioner Zoller came over, made some inquiries, verbal inquiries about how much of a charge per bed for inmates and financial questions and things like that. But he said, there is no contract. So what the hell are we going to do with our inmates on the 12th? What it ended up being is, Roy Zoller, Jake Anderson, purposely, and I use that word, purposely, lied to us and the public.
Yep. You're here.
They had no intention on moving those inmates over there on the 12th. If they did, they'd be sitting in a bus in the parking lot because NORCOR would not be accepting them. those two sheriffs also said, are you aware, Bob, that even if we put the contract on fast track, it'd be 5 to 6 months before we'd have a contract. And if we contract with Klickitat County, all people arrested in Klickitat County, doesn't matter which agency arrested, would have to be booked in Klickitat County, cleared medically to the hospital, and then transported over to their facility. Certain inmates they will not take. I think she touched on it where you have a mental. So, and of course, in their 1,000 hours of research, they didn't know about it. They didn't have any clue about that. So that's the problem. They went into this, and I think primarily because there's a hatred for from the sheriff, for the sheriff, and they have their woke far left followers. The Democrat Party's joined in with them to get a petition, to sign a petition to get the jail contractor with NORCOR. So, if you think for a second this is not politics, you better turn the TV set on, because it is in fact politics. Now, corrections. Commissioners put out this thick packet here, right?
Yeah.
And there was 4 choices, I think they had on there. They could contract with NORCOR, but there's some pitfalls there, damn right there's pitfalls there. A lot of liabilities, extradition issues and all kinds of stuff, court transport, and they'd have to maintain a booking facility and holding cells in our jail in order to contract with NORCOR. So there's a lot of problems with that. But anyway, in there, I got looking at them, there's 4 options. They can contract with NORCOR, modify the contract with NORCOR where they do the booking here, and like I said, or they can build a new jail, or they can make some improvements on the current jail, and the county commissioners take the jail over and have a director report to the county board of county commissioners. Nowhere in those 4 items that they give a choice on, they never mention anything about the sheriff running jail.
Tell it, Bob.
Sorry? What? I couldn't hear what the comment was.
Tell it like it is.
That's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, the point being, if you don't think it's politics, then why isn't the sheriff on that list? They want to get rid of the sheriff. They know they can't fire me. Have you seen it? The CD? They have no control over me. Period. And that pisses them off. To be honest with you, Loren Zoller is power hungry. She's in that position, and by God, everybody better march to the Queen's orders, or you're in trouble. And Jake Anderson's got an axe to grind with me, because I tried to get his butt thrown in jail for having a juvenile, allowing a juvenile beer party at his Airbnb in White Salmon. Our prosecutor sent it over to the Walla Walla prosecutor, who was about to retire in a month, and guess what? Wouldn't file charges. It's not that he didn't do it, but he got a walk on it. And he should not even be voting or making any comments on anything to do with the sheriff.
Over here first, Eric first.
Eric, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm Eric Young. Probably going to address a couple people in the audience. I appreciate you do have one commissioner who showed up today.
Yes. By the way,
everybody remember that.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Dan Christopher, the commissioner sitting right there, is the only one that's done a walk through that jail after they dropped the bombshell.
There it is.
So, my background is military, so I'm all about numbers and statistics and like that. On an annual basis, what is the estimated cost to run the jail the way it is right now?
1.8.
Hold on just a second.
1.8?
He answered it for you right here.
Okay. I'm hearing like 1.8, 1.9, just a hair under 2. We'll just leave it that way.
$2 million.
Government likes to round up.
It goes up every year with 4% CPI.
Yep.
You'll be at 2 million.
Say $2 million.
The 4 options that were given in that pamphlet, do any of them state actually closing it in its entirety?
The first one where they'd operate a complete contract with NORCOR, yes.
In that, though, didn't it say that there would be a holding facility and looking?
That's the second option.
Okay, so there's one option that's entirely closed. In the event the jail were to close, the public building, no longer fall under your department, what would the cost be then to the county to maintain a facility, to not let it go into disrepair while they figure out what to do with it?
That is a wonderful question that somehow managed to not go in the file that he was showing you.
Yeah.
Is the actual capital improvement of O&M for a mothballed facility, and what that expense would be, and that along with vehicles and cell phones and computers and all those things miraculously didn't make it into the document to show you what the true and actual expense of the closure would be. We'll discuss that on Thursday's workshop. Good question.
So, I just kind of want to bring up some of those things about the finances, because, you know, they came out hard saying we're going to close it down. It's not financially viable for us to do this. Well, there's still costs, even if it's mothballed.
Right.
So my next question would be, if they didn't think in their 1,000 hours of planning and studying about what that cost would be, maybe we should start asking who's contacted them to buy the facility. Because I'll tell you, there is a racket out there in law enforcement, and it's paid prison.
Amen.
There is a push to use it as transitional housing. LogApp would like to use the jail for transitional housing.
I can tell you from firsthand, dealing with refugee movements globally, a jail is not a good option to house people that are less than capable of taking care of their own financial needs. It actually will make them feel degraded. So that would be a horrible mistake to use a jail. It's not like it's Deadwood, South Dakota, and you got all sorts of tourist recognition with this jail. It's steel and concrete, so you're not gonna get a great tourist push for it. But there's costs associated with it being mothballed and potential movement from outside organizations coming in to maximize on a little problem that we had in Klickitat. And all I ask is when it comes time for election season, everybody remembers where outside money comes from. There's going to be people that get funding that are not from Klickitat County. You need to find out what their overall interest is. You know, I'm all about using government against itself. Hey, Jay Inslee, even though you're on your way out, what if we had the first green energy jail? I bet there's some great money out there for that.
Good job, Eric.
So, really look at the numbers when they start calling out this stuff. The people that want to close it, make them dive deep into their notes that they took and make them answer. Because in all reality, it's a public building, which means everybody here owns it.
Yep.
Yes.
So you have the right to demand honesty and integrity when it comes to these financial records, patient treatment, prisoner treatment, all that stuff. That is within your scope of authority as a public citizen. So please exercise that.
Thank you, Eric. And Mike, I'll recognize you here in just a second, but I do want to mention, we haven't just been laying back and letting the commissioners kick us around and that. I reached out to Sheriff Jim Raymond, Franklin County Sheriff. They have a 330-bed facility jail. I asked him if he would send his chief jailer down, Commander Harmon. He agreed to do so. Commander has over 30 years in corrections. In addition, he's been in Iraq and other places redoing their jails, requested by the DOC. This guy's got experience and a resume. resume, that'll knock your socks off. He was in a meeting, Washington State Sheriff's and Peace Officers Association this week. He will be getting us a report. When he gets a report in, and I mean, he asked us all kinds of questions. What training we did, how many officers we got, what's the budget. He went through it all. What kind of programs are available, all of this. Then did a tour of the jail. And at the end of the day, he said that's one of the most clean jails he has ever seen.
You're here.
And he's been in a bunch of them. He said that not only that, he said the employees were professional, looked professional, and what he could tell, everybody had a good feeling in that jail. Now, I'm just paraphrasing, but we will know that. But if he has some things there that we need to correct, you bet. And we've asked the county commissioners to let us have a nurse, even for a part-time, come in and do sick call a couple times a week. I mean, crickets. We don't hear nothing from them. Now, in one of their proposals, fourth thing, they're going to have a medical room and they'll hire a nurse.
$750,000.
Right.
Well, then you gotta get a nurse that's gonna accept your liability.
Yes, right.
Hello? Hello?
Well, you're going to have, the nurse would have to work under a doctor.
And the doctor doesn't always accept the liability either,
That's
because he
right.
wasn't there.
You
He's
want,
been there.
but here's the point I'm getting at, and you're correct on that. Here's the point I'm getting at. This jail that we have right now, the current jail, with some modifications, it's not going to meet accreditation standards, and you're going to find there's only a few jails in the state of Washington that are accredited. This jail does not have to be accredited, but if they made some modifications, it wouldn't take a lot of money, hell of a lot cheaper than contracting and some of the other ideas they come up with, and help our employees, not threaten and fire them, put them through negotiations for severance packages. I can tell you, they did do one thing. They were able to get the morale in that jail as low as you could get it. They did accomplish that. And I will never forgive those two commissioners, because in my mind, and I've been in the business a while, in my mind, they flat got caught with their pants down and they lied to the public. They lied to the law enforcement community. And worst thing, they created a problem with the employees of the, hell, we even had inmates, not forced, they volunteered to testify how damn good the jail is. One of them looking at murder charges. So, no, and we didn't force them, they volunteered to testify. So it just boggles my mind. I know it's political, and that's where they're headed with it. They want to get rid of me because I'm a constitutional sheriff and won't take their crap because I don't work for them. I work for you all, and that's what upsets them. And the same with Loren Culp. They'd like to see him out of there as well. But when I told them, if they close that jail down or if the board takes it over, my concern is the 16 employees. Whatever ends up being, as long as they have a job, that's what counts. The other thing is, if they do that, take the jail over, they will remove Loren because they're going to have a director of the jail who will report directly to the board. Okay? And I'm going to turn around and I'm going to appoint Loren Culp, my chief criminal deputy, which is a vacant position. And I think somebody asked me that question. Why haven't you used that? I'll tell you why I haven't used that position up until now. Because we only have a minimum of 3 officers working the road. We use that position of money to pay overtime out so we can provide a service to the citizens. Because the county commissioners wouldn't step up to do it. And I'm not even here today. I'm talking about these other 2 incompetent liars that are on the board. All right.
Over here, Bob. Over here first.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, man.
Mike and then Ann.
I don't think I need a mic. I got fired from the football team for yelling at the kids too much. So, I just want to say my opinion. I just moved to Goldendale a year ago. My name's Clay Munson. I got 2 children, age 11 and 14. I built a house in this community. I found out I'm fatally ill. I got 2 to 6 months to live, so please, just indulge me and just hear me out. I have no reason to lie to you. I'm not political. I care passionately about the community I live in and my profession. I've been in law enforcement for over 42 years. It's a long time. I did 31 years in Seattle, and then I was stupid enough to sign up to work in Vegas on the Strip for another 6 years, and a couple other small agencies. But I know some of you are forming an opinion of me confessing I'm a West Sider, but please hear me out. I was a police commander in Seattle for 12 years. I have a lot of experience in public government, all levels, lots of different assignments. I was an incident commander on a rave party where a kid killed 8 teenagers from stepping over bodies, having to deal with that. Fast forward, I'm working for Metro. I take the weekend off in Vegas to go to a concert with my wife, and I'm running for my life where 60 people got killed on October 1st, 2017. I took a vacation day to deal with that. So I'm what's called a shit magnet. I have been exposed to many things on many levels, be it active shooters. I was on the SWAT team in Seattle for 10 years. I got in a shooting. I had 14 bullet holes in my body from it. I know what I'm talking about. Okay? As a general police officer and as a police administrator. My mother-in-law loves this man. Bob Songer is a good man. He has had a wonderful career. He cares about his community. All right? I just have some concerns about what's going on right now in this community. Okay? There's too much anger in this community, too much division. We need to focus on our jobs. All right? Personally, I don't think it's the sheriff's job to start a public meeting with a 50-minute video making the citizens afraid of their government. I disagree with it. I think that was a horrible decision. I don't think you should be afraid of your government. All right? I know you shouldn't be afraid of your government. What you should be afraid of, your government isn't going to come in and get too drunk and beat your wife up or your kids. Your government isn't going to sell your children fentanyl, which is really concerning to me because I'm not going to be here in 6 months to protect my daughter. Okay? It's going to have to be up to police professionals to do that. And right now, he's more focused on his legacy and a piece of paper that was written 250 years ago that still sure shit stands up in this country.
That's right.
And he's not going to change it. You don't need to call yourself a constitutional county. You follow the Constitution like everybody else in America. It's a waste of fucking time. Now, I need to tell you I work for the county. I'm on sick leave, but I work for the county. I'm speaking for myself as a citizen of this county and in the United States, all right? I'm speaking for myself, not the county. But in my county position, I see what happens in the sheriff's department. I've only seen 2 narcotics arrests in a year I've been working for the county. 2! I think there needs to be more focus on, I've seen it. I've seen drug deals in the alley behind Simcoe when I'm going home from work. There's a gal on a bicycle selling fentanyl, right? I think we need to see more activity towards stuff like that woman's holding up in the back there. Please hold up your sign. What's killing our children and not worry about whether he's got more authority than the President of the United States.
Well, let me tell you,
listen, I need to finish, Sheriff. Let me finish. I know more than him as a police administrator. I got 10 times the experience of him, right? Because I'm on the west side. 2.5 million people in Vegas. How many million in Seattle? Countless meetings I've had. A leader, an elected leader in the criminal justice system does not throw other leaders under the bus. He's throwing the commissioners under the bus. Loren's throwing everybody, everybody's pointing fingers throwing everybody. No, you take responsibility for what you're doing. If you can't get the louvers out of the jail, Loren, you figure out who you need to talk to. You get a collaborative effort. Talk to who knows how to do that. Follow it up. Make sure it happens. Don't just sit there for a year because you wrote a memo.
That's what a police professional does. They care about the community. They figure out ways to get it done collectively, you know, so you can help the citizens. You got half this group saying no to solar money. It's $20,000 or $20 million free tax money that we can use for these issues. But we're too blinded by, oh, you know, we can't have solar panels here. We can't do this. All I'm saying is, be mature enough to realize what's going on. I think this man has had a great career. I think he should step down and should be replaced by a true professional. I would
Fuck you, asshole!
Come on, guys, come on. You're entitled. It's like I said before, yeah, we're gonna get the mic here, but it's like I said before, they have a right. And, well, thank you. And the gentleman does have a lot of experience, but I would debate it as far as management experience. But anyway, he works for the prosecuting attorney's office.
That tells you right there.
Thank you, Ron.
Hey, I'll make this quick since it's my second.
And the sheriff, hey, he just said that. You want to hear the truth? You want to hear the truth? This man sat me down and told me to stay in my lane. I'm doing a murder investigation for this county. He sat me down and told me to stay in my lane. He says, we investigate, you prosecute. The next day, he revoked my privileges to listen to the suspected murderer's phone conversations out of just petty fucking juvenile bullshit.
So it sounds like petty juvenile bullshit right now.
Nobody's listening to the
stand up there and run his fucking mouth and keep talking when nobody's listening because you're an arrogant asshole. You got a fucking bone to grind. Sit down, fucking grind ass off.
That's the truth.
Policy.
Lies of my children. That's the truth.
Go on.
He revoked. Hey. Only prosecutor was saying they can't listen to jail calls.
Relax.
He invited this. He invited us for this.
I hear you anymore. Get out of here. You said your
Truth hurts.
Okay, let's come down. We got Mike, go ahead. You're on.
That's tough to follow. I'll be real brief. We're trying to is
good meeting, right?
It's important, critical these days anyway, to identify a cause, not symptoms. And a lot of times argue symptoms, but the psychology of the left, right? Rational people operate.
Listen up.
Operate on incentives to make things better. The left, like the jail, operates, their incentives operate on negatives for a political outcome. And that's what we're looking at, I think, here. So we need to dissuade, the main point is to dissuade the two commissioners from a seriously bad decision. And if we have to pressure that legally, lawfully, then let's do that. But you don't tell a liberal no. And that's what we're trying to tell Loren Zoller and Anderson, because they do not accept that, because they are liberals. So.
Thank you, Mike. I had a lady in the back with the signs. Did you want to?
That guy said his hand in the back. 30 minutes. Anthony's first.
Oh, sorry.
And then him, and then in the back.
Okay, so most of you maybe know me. My name's Anthony Rizzi from Dallasport, and I've been retired for over 24 years. So I've had a lot of time on my hands. I'm also the chairman of the community council down in Dallasport, Murdoch. So, with that information, what I do is I spend all my extra retiree time volunteering and helping all over. I help charities. When I was at Eagle, I was able to help get $50,000 for hospice. That was one of my accomplishments. But one of my best accomplishments, and what I feel the best about, is when Sheriff Songer came and talked to us about forming a posse. I thought that was a great idea. I have a pretty good background, so I was like, okay, I'll get involved in this because I need to spend some more hours helping. So I've done that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because it was discussed the very first person or the second person that the posse, they're helping with prisoner transfers, and they're helping with in the jail. Well, guess what? That frees up their personnel to be able to do what they're supposed to be doing. In prisoner transfers, we're not the one bringing them in and booking them in. That's all on the road deputies. That's not us. We don't do that. We do get training though. We're trained every month. We get training in something, but we're always being trained every month. The other thing that was even more than that was the jail. I get calls from the jail asking me to come in because they have somebody on suicide watch. Well, you don't understand what suicide watch means in the jail. They are put in a special cell, they have no clothes, they have a mat and a blanket, and my...
And listen to the abuse that they have to take. And yes, sir, I understand your problem. I will take care of it as soon as I can. The professionalism that they offer, you would be shocked. We all have the same goal in mind. We all want to live in peace, whether we say we are right, whether we say we are left. To have somebody released that might be that threat to either one of us, I don't think any of us want that. None of us want it. As far as the deputies go, follow the money. So when I got the call that there was an MHP person, that's what we call them, mental health people, we had to take them to St. Peter's. Okay, now when you work graveyard, which is the shift that I like, because all things happen on graveyard, right? So I put in my 10-hour shift, my 8-hour shift. I would have to drive 4 hours to St. Peter's. Now that's overtime one way. 4 hours back after I put in my shift. Try to sleep during the day and get called out to backup patient. So that's the same thing with jail. They've got that issue. Oh, we've got a crisis. Those guys get called back in. They work 12-hour shifts. So none of us want any of these people out. We all want them to get the help that they need. That's why we do this job. Sheriff Songer and his staff, Mr. Culp, where are you? Kudos to you, sir. Okay? So, if the jail beds need to be replaced, replace them. Offer your time. Go replace them, I'll help you. I will help you replace those vents. That's my challenge to you. So, Bob Songer, I support you.
Thank you. Let me quickly address the sign here. I agree with 100%. The end of the fentanyl crisis now. You know, I've been in this business going on 56 years.
Why did this grab your attention? You're totally familiar with it?
I'm familiar with drug enforcement. Let me tell you why we have a fentanyl problem.
You said this person. Are you familiar with this person?
No.
No, I did. Let him talk.
Can I finish? I know you want to get your point in, but can I finish?
Go for it.
First of all, I've heard over the years, oh, and I've worked narcotics and all this, oh, we're losing the war on drugs. We're losing the war on drugs. We've never had a damn war on drugs. Not in this country. Fentanyl wouldn't exist if we had the government that had the gonads to go into the cartel, they know where they're at, and napalm the hell out of them. Now wait a minute. And people that are dealing fentanyl, death penalty.
Amen.
And you don't get these liberal politicians to ever get off the dime on that.
Fentanyl is within the...
You're next. You're next. Look at the southern border.
That's right.
Okay, my name is Melissa Howtapat. That sign is my son, Ivan Howtapat. He's the one who hung himself in the jail. Part of my family is from here, from way back, the Goldens. My husband, Donovan Howtapat, back here, his family's from here from time immemorial. He's Yakima, I'm Oneida. We're from here. I won't specifically talk about the death of my son due to the pending litigation, but I want you all to know that I do believe that there should be a jail. I don't believe in taking away the jail. However, I do believe change needs to be made.
That's what elections are for.
These are human lives. People are worried about jobs more than human lives. I've lost jobs before due to organizations closing. Guess what? I went and found another job. I haven't found very many jobs here in Klickitat County for some reason, but I've worked in the Dalles. Right now I work in Toppenish. I live here. I even worked in Portland once. I commuted over there. Sorry, this is hard. People are talking about inmates are, treated well and things like that. But I wonder if that's all the inmates or just the non-brown ones. I'm serious. I am so serious because it's true. I have my husband right here as prime example. There's others as well. And I would also like to volunteer to tour the jail, specifically the cell where my son was put away in a corner. So I would love to see that. I would love to tour the jail. I would love to spend a shift with people who voluntarily get these jobs to work in the jail. That's their what they want to do. That's what they want to do as a job. I work with elderly. I'm a program manager for an area agency on aging because I love to take care of old people. So you do what you want to do as a job. You're not forced. Anyway, I meant to talk about my son mostly. He went to school here all his life, except for maybe a couple of years. He was a really good basketball player from a young age. He was a good hunter. He was a good fisherman. He got his first kill. He got 2 and 1 with 1 shot. That was my son. He was good at everything he tried until he tried fentanyl. Until he tried, let me take that back, Percocet. It started out with that. Then pretty soon Percocet's not good enough anymore. Pretty soon nothing's good enough anymore because you tried fentanyl. You try it one time, you're done. You can't stop yourself because the withdrawals are so terrible. You can't stand to even live. I'm one step away from being like him. I can barely stand to even live because my son's gone. Because I love my kids more than life. I could just go out right anytime, and just say, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna do drugs too, and I'm just gonna live on the streets because I can't take this life anymore. It can happen to any of us, getting drug addicted. When I first went to jail, I was happy at first because I thought, okay, good. Now he can't overdose. Now he can't get beat up by drug dealers or get killed by the cartel because he had dealings with cartel. That's how deep it was. But I quickly found out that wasn't the case. You know, my son, he hated this drug so bad, he used to tell me, Mom, I hate this drug, I wish I could quit, I wish I could quit. I really hate it. He told me, I wish I never would have tried it, not even once. I wouldn't be like this. And I'm not political at all. I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican. I care about humanity. I care about human lives. That's what I care about. So I just hope that whatever happens, I know my son did not die in the jail. He died, I think, 3 days later in the hospital with his family surrounding him. A room full of people that cared and loved him. We sang our songs to him every day. And every day I wish I could be with him. So when you guys think about these people that are stuck on drugs, think about him. He was, half of you guys are probably at the basketball games cheering him on. He was a star player as a freshman starter at Goldendale High School. He was good then, in everybody's eyes, but then as soon as he's on drugs, he's a piece of shit.
We will make sure that, first of all, I want to say, I'm sad for your loss. And we will make sure, if you want to take a tour of the jail, we'll absolutely come to you. Bill?
Sorry, Ray. I'll get to you in two.
My name is Cassandra Christopher, and I live in Centerville, and I am the Litter Crew Supervisor. And a week ago, last Thursday, while I was cleaning up in Dallasport, I had one of my guys come over to me and say, I think I just found drugs. First words out of my mouth, don't touch a damn thing, put your gloves on, let's go look and see what it was. I called the sheriff's office. I found a baggie, a sandwich baggie, that had a minimum 20 individually wrapped crystals. And come to find out from the sheriff's office, whenever I went and asked him, like, hey, what was this? He goes, it was marked for destruction as possible fentanyl. This is my litter crew that I am out. Her son died of fentanyl. Changes have got to be made at the state. You have got to quit legalizing drugs.
Amen.
Next thing, I worked in the jail for 4.5 years. We had an inmate in there, kid never been in jail, scared out of his damn mind, writes a note. I want my cats to go here. I want my dogs to go here. This is a suicide note. We all know it, it happens. My person that was in charge on our shift calls mental health. Oh, they don't write suicide notes. That's a crock shit. We all know it. I can tell you how many times these guys will go out to a death and there's a note left by this person. You want changes made, you tell the state to open up more mental health facilities. You can't just have 2 hospitals in the state of Washington for the entire state of Washington. It doesn't work. You want drugs off the street? Then damn it, you quit making the state saying, oh, let's legalize everything. Oh, well, if they have a little bit. BS. Or we're gonna end up with more, like Melissa Howtapat's son, who is dead from fentanyl, who I could have had somebody on my crew that I'm responsible for could have died. Anything could have happened. We have got to quit allowing Vancouver to say, oh, well, we've got a safe place where you can come in and here, we'll supply you the needles. What more are we gonna give out? When is it gonna stop? You guys want changes? Damn it, we gotta make those changes and we need to figure it out and quit letting them make the changes for us.
Thank you.
I'll keep this really short. I don't have a lot to say, but my name is Chris Siebert, and I'm just a local guy here. I sit on the school board, I coach high school basketball, and I would tell Melissa that she's absolutely right. Her son was a rising star in this community. I coached him in the middle school, and he was a rising star in high school. So it is a tragedy. I think about that kid a lot. It's a tragedy. But I also want to say something to everybody that's in here, including the gentleman that, I don't even know where he went. Looks like he's left. The gentleman that was ranting, okay? What are we gonna do to fix it? When are we gonna come together and fix it? And stop pointing the finger at everybody else and come together as adults and fix it? We are adults. This is our community. We can stand up here and talk about how we've, for 500 years I did this, and 500 years I did that. Who cares? We, Republicans, Democrats, I don't care. This is our community. If you don't come and want to fix it, you're part of the problem. What is wrong with you people? I also am part of the reserve program at the Goldendale PD. Nobody probably has any idea that that's even happening right now. I was totally not aware of the drug problem in this town until I started riding with these guys. Does anybody do ride-alongs? Does anybody go and see what is in this community right now? And I'm talking about just Goldendale. I don't get to White Salmon. I don't get to Bingen. I don't get to Dallasport. Just Goldendale. It is crazy. Crazy. So I would totally agree with Cassandra. The drug problem in this is where it's at. It has nothing to do with the jail. It has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat. You know what? Fentanyl don't care. They don't care whether you're a Republican. They don't care about your Constitution. Do I agree with the Constitution? Absolutely. But they don't care. Drugs don't give two craps how much time you've been on the beat. They don't care. The drugs is going to overtake. That's where our problem is in this community. Everybody wants to fight with everybody. My question is, when are we going to all come together as adults that really care about our community and actually fix it? That's what I want.
I'm Ray Mossbrecker. We've had a lot of people speak here today that fairly new to the community and we're getting quite a few more people. I'm definitely one of the old ones because I graduated here in 1961. And the majority of my life has been living right here in Goldendale. I love it. I've seen a lot of sheriffs come, a lot of sheriffs go, but I gotta tell you, the one you got right now is just about as good as they get. I firmly believe that. Thank you for your work. When the gentleman just said, when are we gonna come together, we're here. This is how it starts. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Bill?
He is a good sheriff. He's gonna stay. That's my vote.
Thank you.
The only thing I have to say is a $20 million lawsuit against the sheriff's department isn't going to make things any better. I would ask the Howtapat family to drop the call off the attorneys, whoever sicked them on the county, and just get on with life. We got a lot of life ahead of us. We don't need any huge wounds in the county's existence, you know, it's an exorbitant, ridiculous amount of money. So it's a horrible situation. Well, let's get on with life. Drop the lawsuit. I'm Pete Toll, I'm here in Goldendale. I think one of the biggest problems we have is the prosecutor's office, as you've just seen by the one guy working at the prosecutor's office. I think that's one of our biggest problems we got in this county right now is people in our prosecutor's office. Now, I don't know that much about drug stuff. I was involved in the Sigali raid down in Coos Bay. I brought the 44 down and picked up the tie sticks and brought them to a patrol boat. And after that, we got a whole bunch of threats because we went and busted it. Well, guess what? The sheriff's office down there gave all the Coast Guard guys concealed weapons permits. He said, bring it on. So we better support the sheriff's office to start getting the drug dealers. And if you get the drug smugglers and the drug dealers off the street, you're going to solve an awful lot of the problems. And also some of the prosecutors, too.
Well, I too am an elder in this county. I'm an endangered species. I'm a native. And like this gentleman right here, I've seen some mighty fine sheriffs, and I've seen some real duds. This man standing here is one of our best sheriffs we've ever had. And until you're willing to strap on 20 pounds of protective gear, put your life on the line every single day, don't be knocking him, because you have no idea what he, his deputies, his corrections officers, and the rest of law enforcement go through. Thank you.
But you get 3 minutes. 5 seconds.
I'm not going to talk forever. I just keep hearing people talk about a $20 million lawsuit, the county's going to pay $20 million, blah, blah, blah. Through our insurance coverage, we have $100,000 deductible. Everything more than that is paid by the insurance company. Yes, we get average rates of inflation of 15–20% on the insurance bill, but we would get them with or without the lawsuit. So total cost of $100,000.
Thank you, Dan.
My name's Catherine Kramer. I've lived here a little over 20 years. Part of that time was spent as a primary clinician at Comprehensive. While it wasn't one of my main duties to go to the jail, I did accompany other clinicians. Sometimes it took more than one of us to make sure that we all stayed safe, the prisoner as well as ourselves. And it took sometimes more than one set of eyes or more than one person's life experience, educational practice experience to assess a client, a prisoner. I can't imagine what it's like now not to have Comprehensive about 200 yards away so that we could get there right away and assess a prisoner so that that person can get the appropriate level of care. Telemed, telepsych doesn't cut it. We are losing so many resources. All of us have a pinch in our pocketbook. All of our economies, our budgets, everything is stressed and stretched. The last thing we need to do is lose another asset, which would be our jail. And as far as fentanyl, my heart goes out. I'm a mom with a son who has been lost due to fentanyl. He was stripped and died of 3.5 times the lethal dose. Yeah, we need to close that border down. We need to act like a country with a sovereign nation. Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Gene, and I live in High Prairie. I've been in this area for 25 years. I have a pretty good knowledge of what's going on. That gentleman right up there, I met in Clark County when I lived in Clark County. We had drug problems there. He didn't single-handedly take care of them, but he takes them serious. I feel sorry for this young lady losing a family member. I know how that feels. I've lost 2. Not to that specifically, but I know it's still grief. But my main comment I want to make is, and I thought the purpose of us all being here today was to discuss the jail closure and the shenanigans going on with our county commissioners. Okay? I, for one, do not want to pay my taxes to have it shipped over to Oregon.
Nope.
Second of all, I also know another thing that this man is very firm on, that's public safety. And without an active jail here, what kind of safety are we ensured from the county commissioners that spearheaded this bullshit? That's all I have to say. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
You're up next, young man. Well, I'm a native from Goldendale. I was born here. Dr. White saved my life when I was 6 months old. So I feel for Goldendale, Klickitat County. First of all, let me say this. 37 years, part of my job was to protect 350 guys, and that was other jobs. 97 of those I had to represent almost monthly in some kind of investigation because the railroad chose to take their job because they were idiots and either got drunk or started messing around with drugs. I want you to know I never met a 50-year-old man who woke up from bed and said, hey, today I'm going to become a cocaine addict. It all starts somewhere else. Either from grade school when you start smoking a cigarette behind the barn, or you sip your dad's beer that he doesn't know about, but he does. Parental intervention needs to be done first. We're responsible, and I'm not judging anybody. Some kids are just way out there. We've had 5, lost 4, raised 17 foster kids. And I got that through being involved with the Sheriff's Department in Oregon. And I saw those families who were being destroyed and destroying themselves because they couldn't handle themselves. So we can't blame anybody other than ourselves for not doing intervention. We need to do that as dads, as moms, as grandparents, as aunts and uncles, as brothers and sisters. They were even saying that they wanted to get off. Well, get them into some professional help there. Don't take that as, okay, we'll just pull up your bootstraps and take off. The other thing is, this was here, I came here because of your jail. We lost ours over there for the same goofy thing. And you know what it cost us? Everybody who is not mentally capable or deemed mentally or non-conformity to the jail, who needed special care, the county ended up paying the hospital and either the reserve sheriffs or the deputy sheriffs to then monitor them while they're in the hospital because we had no jail. Sometimes it just takes, as one woman said, her boy got arrested and he wrote that suicide note about the dog and the cat. Sometimes that's all it takes is one time when they hear that door shut behind them and they know they're not going to come out, that they're going to change their ways. And as parents and as friends and as neighbors, we can help them do that. But if you close your jail here, it's going to cost you and cost you and cost you because NORCOR right now, under the books, is trying to figure out where they can get more beds. They're going to Three Rivers or they're going to the Oregon State Pen. When you have a capacity overload, you've got to put them somewhere, and you're going to foot the bill if they go somewhere farther than whatever the contract that they deem that they can get out of NORCOR. So I recommend that you do whatever you can to keep this jail in operation, because from what I'm hearing and seeing is it's probably one of the better areas for people to get the help that they need. Thank you.
Thank you.
One to the back.
What time is it? What kind of?
Quarter to 1.
All right, we do have one county commissioner here. I looked around, I didn't see the other two. Bob, you're here.
Yeah.
So, what does the citizens of Goldendale have to do to keep the jail open? Comments from either one of you?
Well, I would think it'd be public contacting the citizens. You know, I made a suggestion at one of the board meetings that I put on there, why don't the county commissioners, because you can see this is a hot topic, right? Have a special election and have this election contract, keep jail as is under the sheriff, keep jail under the Board of County Commissioners, and there was one other one. Build a new jail. And let the public vote on it. Let them decide. it would seem logical. We work for you folks, and it is a very dividing issue going on here, and I think the gentleman might as well. But he was saying, what can we do to pull together? Well, that would be one way to do it. Let the public decide.
What do you think, Dan?
Facts over politics, number one. Politics should have never been in this whole argument. This got started by the defund the police, the defund I hate Bob, Sheriff Bob fan club, putting political pressure on politicians, and in my opinion, they did. If this was even going to be a thought to close the jail, I believe the commissioner should have spoke about it in an open public meeting. Maybe said we should probably do some research and just kind of figure out what our options are. Check with our partners, check with the sheriff, get all the information, compile some big fat thick document, maybe then ask some more questions based on what the big fat thick document was, and then I'll sit down and eventually we'll all come to an informed decision, which is learn through knowledge. And then we make whatever decision that is, option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. As that is what we should have done. That's without taking politics in. When you add the I hate Sheriff Bob fan club or the I love Sheriff Bob fan club, you're only acting on politics and not on principles or the facts and the knowledge of the case. So the fact that, and I agree with Sheriff Bob, we've done thousands of hours of research in a week with one employee. The numbers don't add up.
No.
It wasn't no 1,000 hours. Okay, now it might be 1,000 hours because they've been working on this document for 2 weeks. I would question how they got to the document because we've never discussed that in an open board meeting. So when Commissioner Anderson says, oh, there's 5 options, and then I ask him in a board meeting, well, why is there 5 options? How did we get to 5 options? What are the options? We've never discussed that. Well, now there's 4 options. Well, again, there's a lot of things that quote Board of Commissioners in there that I have no knowledge of.
Okay, that was my other question.
At least you now have the knowledge, and I think you can read from that, even though there's a lot of code in there that you have to read through the code. You look at option number 1, close the jail and send to NORCOR. Well, that's gonna take a year or 2 and might take some legislative changes.
Right.
Whoops.
I noticed that when I was
So
reading.
maybe we jumped the gun here by saying we're gonna close the jail on April 12th without actually doing any research and getting the packet to find out that we can't really do that. And that's my point. You have to make sound decisions with knowledge. And I guess to end it up, we will be discussing that in a workshop. Now, that was presented to me on Tuesday.
Are we allowed to attend that workshop?
We're allowed to attend the workshop on Thursday, but they have already ruled that the only people speaking will be the commissioners and the HR and finance person that put the packet together. They will not be hearing from the public or the sheriff.
That's not fair.
So then why do you get with the commissioner and only one commissioner shows up here? So what, how you're gonna be inundated?
No, well,
I have been the odd man out for 3 years now. I finally got a second vote with Commissioner Zoller to stop 20,000 acres of solar panels. That's a whole nother issue that's getting backpedaled now. But in the last year, that finally got a second vote, flipped. That second vote used to be no solar panels, agreeing with me and Bob on the prosecutor, and now that is the best friend of the prosecutor, the best friend of Jake Anderson.
So we can only talk to you is what I'm saying, is that,
Well,
is that what?
And until you give me a second vote year round, yeah.
actually, because the real question here, the answer to this question is this. We all need to be attending the county commission meetings, either in person or via Zoom, and speaking our sensible taxpayer minds. And reminding the county commissioners at 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. when public comment is there, that as a taxpayer, you are not closing my jail, period, okay? Because all of us as taxpayer voters, we're their boss. We own the jail. He works for us. So does he. And he is doing his job. Now it is up to us as voters, taxpayers, to do our job. Get engaged and stay engaged. And you're talking about this workshop. Show up in mass. Show up on Zoom. Show up in person. And stare those people straight in the eye. Okay? Because all three of them work for us. But there's two of them that are in hiding.
So that's all I was saying. We all need an answer to what we can do. You know, we're not involved in the county politics other than we're voters.
Paying attention matters
Yes.
because when you turn a flashlight on, the cockroaches scurry. So, we've had a lot of time in this county where there's been no flashlight. And now that we've made our Tuesday meetings zoomed and recorded, we just now made Thursday meetings zoomed and recorded, which they're deathly afraid of because they have to go through the next budget now with people watching. Ooh.
All I ask is one thing.
Wait a minute. He's not done. Hold on. He's not done.
So we the people, who is willing to stand up and help out for this, please stand up then. Because I really don't know all of you. It sounds like we've got lots of people here. So who wants to be in charge of all this? Who wants to kind of head up?
I think you just volunteered. That's what I heard.
And I have nobody's telephone number. A lot of you I've never seen before.
So there should